Welcome back. Got another Pauper Cube top 10 coming for you. This time, black cards, near and dear to my heart. See you on the other side. Starting off with the honorable mentions, Tortured Existence from Stronghold. Black, choose and discard a creature card, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Now there's a lot of nifty combos and interactions you can set up with this. You can chain Gray Merchants, you can reanimate cycling cards that you used earlier in the game. You can just grind out people with the value you can get out of this. You can turn your Llanowar Elves into hulking behemoths later in the game. There's a lot of stuff you can do with Tortured Existence. It's kind of one of the only engine cards available in Pauper Cube, and it's one of the funnest ones to build around. That being said, I don't know that it would crack my top 10. There's a lot of setup you have to have with this, and sometimes it just doesn't get there. Sometimes it's just too slow. That being said, I do love having it in the cube for just raw fun factor to build around. Starting the top 10 off properly here with Gurmag Angler, 6 and black, 5/5 delve. Very simple, very powerful, one of the biggest bodies that Pauper provides for black. This, Twisted Abomination, and First Sphere Gargantua are pretty much your curved toppers. I love all of them. They can all be played at alternate costs. You can set this up to be played pretty early, depending on what enablers you have. And 5/5 body is just kind of hard to deal with in Pauper Cube. Most creatures and burn spells cannot deal with a 5/5 body, so basically you got pacifism effects is the easiest way to answer this, and it can come out pretty early depending on what enablers you've drafted. Coming in at number 9, we have Akiba Gang Shinobi, 3 and black, 3/2, ninjutsu, 3 and black. Whenever Akiba Gang Shinobi deals combat damage to a player, that player discards 2 cards. This does require a bit of setup, but not that much setup. If you play with unblockable creatures or shadow creatures in your cube, or just, they don't block your creature, which happens a lot, boom, in comes the Shinobi, and there goes half their hand. Now, you're not likely to get more than one hit in with this, but usually it only takes the one hit. This card can be devastating, and just the one attack from this can potentially end the game there. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but a lot of times in my experience, it actually holds pretty true. Now, what holds this back is I think it's better in an aggressive deck where you can put multiple bodies into play, or decks that you naturally want to play with shadow creatures. It's not exactly, mid-range best card. That being said, it can get you card advantage, so you could play this in a slower deck. It's just not where I prefer to see it. Now, I know this card does have a lot of fans, so I would understand putting it higher on the list. I just value flexibility a lot. It's why Gurmag Angler is below this, and Akiba Gang is number 9. So these are very, very powerful cards in a vacuum. They just don't go into every deck. At number 8, I have Snuff Out, originally from Arcadian Masks. 3 and black, instant. If you control a swamp, you can pay 4 life instead of paying the mana cost. Destroy target non-black creature, it cannot be regenerated. Now, Pauper Cube has no shortage of good and efficient removal. However, it has a shortage of free removal. And Snuff Out, it's free. It doesn't hit every creature in the cube, and 4 life isn't nothing. And if you hard cast this, you're not going to feel good about it. But the flexibility to be able to play this for free can get you back in the game, or can keep you ahead just long enough to end it. If you've ever played with Snuff Out, you know what I mean. It's not the most powerful card, but the flexibility to play 2 cards in a turn early can get you back in the game. From coming in at number 7 after Snuff Out, we have Cast Down, originally from Dominaria. 1 in black, instant, destroy target non-legendary creature. Now, if you're playing Pauper Cube, we don't have legendary creatures. This basically is 2 mana to destroy anything, no restrictions. I don't like putting multiple removal spells on these top 10 lists because it's kind of boring. But when you have what is arguably the best single target removal in the format, you kind of have to respect it. I think many people value Crypt Rats a lot higher than I do, but for me it comes in at number 6. 2 in black, 1/1 X. Crypt Rats deal X damage to each creature and player, spend only black mana. This is basically a recurable, inefficient Pestilence. In and of itself, you could, spend 4 mana, 5 mana, and just do a bad Pyroclasm. It gets real nice when you can put on Cartouche of Ambition, Mark of the Vampire, lifelink effects, and then you can just dominate the game alone. My problem with this card is it's very slow, and there's a lot of situations that it's just too slow to use. This card definitely should be respected, as it is similar to Pestilence, and that's one of the best cards in the cube. That being said, I do think it's worse. You can't just play Crypt Rats and expect to use it on the next turn. They're probably going to remove it. There are times when you can kill your own creatures with it. There are times when you just don't have the mana or ability and time to play it. When Crypt Rats works, or when you can combine it with lifelink abilities, it's great. There's just a lot of times that it doesn't work. At number 5, we have a potentially very, very powerful and game-dominating card here. Thorn of the Black Rose from Conspiracy 2, 3 in black, 1/3, Death Touch. Whenever Thorn of the Black Rose enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. Most of you are probably pretty familiar with this card and pretty familiar with the Monarch ability. Personally, I detest playing with Monarch in one-on-one duels. I think it is an awful mechanic in that lot. That being said, it's ridiculously powerful. This essentially says draw a card at the end of each turn, as long as you are ahead of the other player. You can play this in your aggressive decks to keep you ahead. If it's a stalemate and you're not taking damage, play it in your control decks and you're never going to lose control. The problem with this card is if you're behind, it's pretty bad. It's very dangerous to play this and try to claw out of a bad situation, because as soon as your opponent does damage to you, he becomes the Monarch, and he's the one that's going to bury you in card advantage. At number 4, I have Faceless Butcher, originally from Torment. 2 black, 2/3. When Faceless Butcher comes into play, remove target creature other than Faceless Butcher from the game. When Faceless Butcher leaves play, return the removed card to play under its owner's control. This is another very powerful value 4-drop, similar to Thorn of the Black Rose. If you're ahead, playing a creature and potentially removing your opponent's best creature, it's just going to keep you ahead. It's essentially like playing 2 spells into one turn, which is why I value Snuff Out so highly. This can eat tokens for free, and there are a lot of tokens in Pauper Cube. Admittedly, it is a problem if you eat a large green creature and your opponent can remove this, and then your attackers are walking right back into that large green creature. You do have to prepare for that. This card can find a home in almost any black deck, whether it be aggressive or controlling. Very good with recursion. No matter what, you're going to get something out of this. It's almost always going to have a safe target in token creatures. And even if you're just destroying a 1/1 flyer or a 3/3 trumpeting herd token, like, this is very good value. My number 3 card certainly needs no introduction. Originally from Fallen Empires way back in the day. Hymn to Torak, black. Target player discards 2 cards at random from his or her hand. Yep, it says a random discard of 2 cards. If you play this on turn 2, and your opponent has 2 lands in his hand, and this hits them, that's essentially the game over. Now, that's, the top form of the card. But they are random discards. It could be the best card your opponent has. It could be the worst. The thing is, he doesn't get to choose. Random chance does. And if you've ever played any game ever, you know how much random chance can screw you over. I don't think I like this card as much as a lot of other people do. There are times that the discard effect, you don't need it. You need something to help you on board. Maybe you're behind. Discard effects don't get you back in the game. They help you take over the game. That being said, Hymn to Torak has such a potentially game blowout effect that I think it deserves at least the top 3 spot. Maybe even better. My number 2, from Saviors of Kamigawa, Death Denied. X black instant. Return X target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. This does require setup. It's not great early. If you play it late, this is backbreaking and game winning. For 5 mana at instant speed, you can draw 3 non-land cards of your choice, basically. This works with all your comes into play creatures. This synergizes with any discard effects and looting effects you've been using. This card is just one of the most back-breaking plays that you can make in the late game. The raw power alone has it very high on my list. It doesn't fit in every single black deck, but the decks that you do play it in, it is potentially so powerful of a play. You knew you were going to see this card on the list. Pestilence, 2 black enchantment. At the end of the turn, if no creatures are in play, sacrifice Pestilence. Black. Pestilence deals 1 damage to each creature and player. Now, first thing to say, there's not a lot of efficient sweepers in Pauper. This is one of your only choices to get rid of token hordes, and it's a good one to do that with. To be fair, there's not always a great position to play Pestilence. You kind of have to craft a deck around it in a way. You want decently toughness leveled creatures like Grey Merchant. You want life gain like Grey Merchant. But if you have those, this can easily take over the game. A lot of cubes don't play the amount of enchantment removal that they should. A lot of the pros and cons I mentioned with Crypt Rats do apply to Pestilence. It's just that Pestilence is a better version of Crypt Rats. It's harder to remove, easier to set up. There are probably a lot of people who would say Pestilence is the best card in Pauper Cube. I don't necessarily agree with that. You do have to have deck building constraints when you use Pestilence in my mind. You can't just throw it into any black deck. But if you can get Pestilence to work, it will easily take over the game. And there's my top 10 list for black cards in Pauper Cube. Feel free to let me know how crazy I am at placing some of the cards so low or so high. Remember though, my experiences may not necessarily match up with yours, and everybody's Pauper Cube environment's a little bit different. So thanks for watching the video, and we'll see you for the next one.